Hey, what's good? Victoria Broderick is a logistics and technology professional. She's a working mom experienced in keeping systems moving, people connected, and teams focused on what works. Now, she wants to bring her skills and talents to Washington to represent the good people of Tennessee's 4th District. This is my conversation with Victoria Broderick. Before we get into it, remember to go to coconutjustice.com to get you some clothes that I think would look good on you. Let's go. Hey, Tennessee. I told you I was going to fix you guys. I'm going to introduce you guys to your next, District 4. I'm gonna introduce you to the person that's gonna fix you guys. This is Victoria Broderick. Hi.
Hi, thanks for having me on. I'm so excited to be here, Carlos. Thank you. I so appreciate you having me. I'm so ready to flip Tennessee. Ready. We're moving and shaking over here.
Do you guys usually lean more conservative out there? I'm from
Yeah.
Illinois. I'm from Chicago mostly, or not mostly, but originally.
Yeah. Well,
So you guys are
Chicago's
my
nice.
neighbors. You're my neighbors.
Yeah, we're a little bit north of us. I don't think we would consider you Southern though. Um,
No.
we're We are more conservative. We are, so Tennessee is a supermajority. We have a supermajority in our state legislature. So that means that means that we are majority Republican.
Hmm.
And a good part to explain here is we're unique. Tennessee not only has a supermajority in its state legislature, we also have a Republican governor, and all but one of our no, 11 federal seats are held by Republicans. So we have one district, District 9 in Memphis, Tennessee, that is held by Steve Cohen. He is our only Democratic representative in the state at a federal level. We also host all the alt right and right wing media currently. So Tennessee is a testing ground for Republican policy. But in 2026, we're going to change that.
What is that even like? I'm trying to go through my head and remember if I've ever lived in a right leaning area, and I don't think so. I don't think
It's a
so.
vibe. Well, we weren't always this way. Up until 2008, we were purplish.
Yeah.
My district was actually when it was in its original one of its original states, because we've been gerrymandered heavily over the years.
Yeah.
It was held by a Democrat up until 2008. So a lot of people think of Tennessee as a red state, but realistically, we are a gerrymandered and non-voting state.
How's what?
Hmm.
Gerrymandering and non-voting,
Hmm. So we are
which is what
gerrymandered
Republicans
red.
really want you to do, but
Yeah. So we are so we're gerrymandered. So recently, my district actually changed in 2020 after the 2020 election. It changed to exclude certain counties and moved me over, and I took on new counties. And that was so that the Tennessee state legislature could gerrymander Nashville into three congressional districts. So if that sounds familiar, you all remember the special election from back in November timeframe. That
Mhm.
was District 7, Mark Green's seat that was challenged by, when he stepped down, Afton Bain stepped up as the Democratic nominee. She challenged Mark Van Epps and took a 22 plus district and whittled it down to 8 points in 2 months. You also have District 5, which is Andy Ogle's seat. He's making the news because he says that Muslims should not be allowed in the country. I think that's the rough quote. And then we also have District 6, which is just north of Nashville, which hosts John Rose, who is most famously known for having a bride that he met when she was 14 and they got married when she was 18. So
Sweet baby Jesus.
he met her at a church event. They have children together. But that is the gerrymander district, and then you have my district, which is slightly to the east. I don't touch Knoxville, don't touch Nashville, don't touch Chattanooga, don't touch Memphis. I am all rural. I am 15 counties. My biggest district is Rutherford County, which is Murfreesboro. And if that sounds familiar, it is where the Tennessee drag band started. That started in my district, and it has looked like this since 2022.
You have so much going on.
Yes, Tennessee is doing the absolute most.
It's like ground zero for uh I don't know, what would you call it? Bigotry?
Well, wait, there's more, because your initial question was,
Yeah.
what is it like living in a Republican supermajority? And I'll tell you exactly what it's like. It is like having legislation put on the books to make abortion punishable by the death penalty, which
But
just
it's okay,
failed.
but it's okay to court a 14-year-old.
Yes. And that is a we'll get to tie that all back to my opponent at some point, because he's got some fun skeletons in his closet that are well known. But this is
Yeah.
what it's like living in a red state. We have a minority. We have the minority of Democrats. We have some of the most fantastic Democrats, where a lot of people think of the Tennessee Three. So that's Gloria Johnson, Justin Jones, and Justin Pearson, who were pushing back after the shooting at the school in Nashville. They were removed from the Tennessee state legislature. Only Gloria got away from the vote, and she was very clear from the get go. The only reason I'm still here is because I'm a white woman. The reason the other two were removed is they're black men. And they've continued fighting in the legislature, and I adore them. I've met all but Justin Pearson, and he is running in District 9 currently in Tennessee. So, I mean, we're moving and shaking. We were the first state in when Kamala took over the nomination. We were the first state to endorse her as a Democratic Party. I was a delegate for the district, but my treasurer who works on my campaign was actually a delegate that went to the DNC, and we were the first state to endorse her, which was amazing for Kamala Harris. And a lot of people, I got to educate a lot of people on how delegations work at a county, district, and state level. And it was very fun to educate people and get to see the process literally from ground up, and also be a candidate on the ballot, because it felt momentous at the time. Obviously, the election didn't turn out the way we wanted, but it was really interesting to watch how the parties all interacted with the DNC, and how learning the intricacies of that. And it was just really interesting to watch, especially as a candidate, because I had the two for being a candidate and understanding running as a candidate, and then working with the county parties and whatnot. So it was a very fun time.
Jesus. I don't I don't get it. I really don't. I don't understand how the power hungry, the folks that you just got done telling us about,
Mhm.
they feel comfortable telling you, their constituents, how to live, and that, Jesus is coming and all this stuff, but then they're running around doing all this shady stuff, and not just their own personal gross stuff, but like everything from gerrymandering to everything that you just got done saying, all these bones that are running out falling out of closets, and they feel comfortable judging you and telling you what to do.
Yeah, telling me that I shouldn't be on the ballot. I mean, this is like back to your question earlier, where we talked a little bit about it's a non-voting and gerrymandered state. The Republican Party has done a really great job of disenfranchising voters.
Yeah.
We were at one point 51st in voter turnout. Yes, we fell below Puerto Rico. Um, we've now moved up to 48, so we are moving in the right direction. But it was very interesting to me, um, just being in, and we'll talk about my experience and how I got here, but listening to voters talk about how, the election was stolen and whatnot, where if you go into any election office in the state of Tennessee, you're going to see a sign, because they're all given them by the state of Tennessee, that says number one in voter integrity. But you had Tennesseans walking around saying that the election was stolen in 2020. And all I can think is, we're number one in voter integrity. That is literally in your polling place.
Yeah.
And you're talking about voter fraud. And then you're wondering how, like, why Tennessee is red. It's because we gerrymander the districts, and then we purge voter rolls, and we make voters feel like they shouldn't show up. And it's we've got that going on with the Republican Party, and you have the Democratic Party, who's abandoned states like Tennessee, because if it's not winnable, why put any time or effort into it? Why not shore up a
Yeah.
blue state and shore up that vote and whatnot? And what we learned with my previous run for office, and with Afton Baines just a couple of months ago, is progressivism works, and
Hmm.
working class people are responding to this type of messaging, to this Bernie Sanders level of messaging. And I always tell people in my district, I get the joke is I get told I'm a moderate all the time, and I have to explain progressivism. I have to say, it's progress with purpose. It's,
Yeah.
do you like your weekends? Do you like your 8-hour workdays? That's progressivism. I have to whittle it down, which works out in my favor because luckily for them, I started my platform, all started my soft launch into politics was educating voters. It was a little spicy, but it started by education, because I recognized that so many people did not understand our political system, did not understand why it was important to get involved in local and state elections. And I felt that need. So I guess I can start here if you want. I'll talk a little bit about that because we just kind of like hop straight into the conversation. You want to
Yeah.
do it?
First, let's set the table just a little bit because
Mm-hmm.
when I talk to people not on the show, uh, people, I've interviewed people that called me a progressive, and I'm not even sure if I am a proper progressive. And then there's some that are like, oh, you're a lefty and all this stuff. What's the difference between progressive and left,
Progressive's
and
just
like
more palatable.
hardcore left? Hmm?
It's just more palatable.
Yeah.
So like when I think about it when it comes to this, because like leftist really encompasses everything from a communist to a democratic socialist. So
Okay.
like, and I always explain it, politics is a spectrum. When you go right, you're going, conservative, Republican, maybe a little bit further right, MAGA, fascist. I mean, they're moving that way. And then you go to the left, it's liberal, it's Democrat, it's democratic socialist, and then you go all the way out to communist, and like the Green Party somewhere in the middle of that. Progressives tend to fall in that democratic socialist vibe.
Hmm.
And what I found with voters is they respond well to progressive because it's not a big scary word in the same way that saying democratic socialist, because the right has weaponized socialism as this
Hmm.
big bad wolf in the room, and
Right.
they've commandeered what communism means and what fascism means and tried to wrap it in this big ball of isms that voters should be afraid of. And that was a big part of my platform, was educating voters that no, it's a spectrum. You're not going to see the same consistency, just like what you see with the right wing, where MAGA has now become the standard for the Republican Party. It like it used to be Republicans, where we think of John McCain's, we think of George Jr., Bush Jr., and
Yeah.
those types of Republicans. Whereas on the other side, a good progressive is AOC or Bernie Sanders. Those are kind of the staples of progressivism. Progressivism just works as a palatable voter. Like, it's not a turnoff because it doesn't associate with those isms that scare voters away.
Okay. I read somewhere, and you let me know if this makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, a progressive knows that the Constitution is good; it just needs to be adjusted, and a leftist wants to do away with the whole damn thing and start from scratch.
I feel like that's a pretty accurate. Like there is that, again, it's like a spectrum. So you'll meet
Yeah.
progressives who will literally out of left field grab that and be like, no, we got to get rid of it. And that's where it really does, the nuance of it really plays into that. Like, because, you know, there are
Mhm.
political spectrum tests that you can take. I actually have a playlist that when I initially started my voter education, where I shared my actual voting record, and showed people like what it would look like what it would look like to see me in an elected office, of where I would stand on the political sphere.
Mhm.
Because like, you know, I'm a progressive, but I'm a gun owner. So like
Yeah.
people get a
Same.
little, they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, oh no, like I enjoy my weapons, because it's plural.
100%. Yeah.
Um, but like, if you asked me 15 years ago, when I was, you know, like just coming into like understanding politics as a teenager in high school, I would have told you I would never own a gun. And that was a product of the life, like the people in my life, and having an immigrant for a father. He's from England. You know, that they don't, guns are like going hunting. They're not what we are allowed to have here.
Not pets.
I literally tell my cousins stories, and they're like, "Wait, what? You did what? You can do what?" Because
Yeah.
it's a truly American experience, specifically a U.S. citizen experience. So all that to say, like, you know, we're learning more as people are becoming more politically aware. They're becoming more in tune with these words like progressive and leftist, which we know that the right utilizes those as like a weapon. It's like woke. It's like
Yeah.
this.
The
Leftist
boogeyman.
is, you know, radical leftist is the new communist. They're just trying to up it so that what the moderates are less likely to vote for that. And all you have to do is look at policy. Look at someone's policy as a candidate running for office. Go look at my policy. You can see where I stand on issues. You know, you're not going. There's very, at this point, because of social media, because of the way I've like run my campaign, and just the change in the political sphere, you can almost at length find a topic that I've covered at some point and say, oh, I know where she stands on this because she talked about it in this podcast at this time, blah, 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 because we have this digital recording of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was it like growing up in Tennessee, but with progressive views?
Rough. So I, so we moved here and
Were you always progressive?
yes, I was.
Yeah.
So my family moved to Tennessee just before I started ninth grade, so 2007. And I did not, we moved from outside of Atlanta. Like it was one of the suburbs of Atlanta. And I've moved around a bit because my dad was in sales rep, and, you know, my dad is, you know, an immigrant, you know, so that born of two worlds really starts to play out with children of immigrants. Even if you've been born, I've lived in the United States my entire life, but I have that otherness because of that experience. And my mother also was, you know, she was unique as an American, you know, born and bred, old Southern family, all the things, but decided to study in Spain as a student when she was a
Atta girl.
teenager, do an exchange program. And then she went back to university and then decided she wasn't coming home because she was of Spain at that point. She was not to me, like she was always more Spanish than she was American at that point, because she just loved it. She loved the culture. She could speak fluently. You know, it was always funny watching this little white lady walk into a room, and if and then as soon as like she clocked that someone's speaking Spanish, and then she just
And she's
whip it
like,
out
I
and like
know exactly where La Biblioteca is.
yeah, she would do that thing. So when we moved here, I wasn't prepared. I was, you know, I lived in a suburb. I wasn't prepared for small town life. Going from a school, a graduating class, if I had graduated at my original school, I would have had 1,000 other students graduating
Yeah,
on
yeah.
graduation night with me. I was 4,000 students. I went to a high school of 1,300. When we moved to Tennessee, my graduating class was like just over 300 people.
Yeah.
And I was an outspoken 15-year-old because you're coming into your own. I didn't understand that while the Civil War ended for me as of eighth grade, because we just finished learning about it, that someone was going to scream on the bus first day at school, the South will rise again, and, has a big old CSA belt buckle. And like, just, I wasn't prepared for that. And it played out in very interesting ways. I was regularly removed from class, specifically US government class. There was a petition put forward. My teacher had to pull me out of class to explain that the students had petitioned to have me removed from the class because they didn't like that I would debate in class. And, it was getting removed from history class because I wouldn't answer a question on a test, and I was just like, no, I'll take a lesser grade. I don't like this question. I know it came from the
Yeah.
book, but I don't like it. And then being like, no, 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 you're going to go to the principal's office over this. And then I'm like explaining to the principal like why I'm not answering this question. And
Sure.
I was like, look, I'll take the lesser grade. I don't care. Blah blah blah. He was like, just answer the question. I was like, it's a biased question. I don't like it. It's not right. I'll take a lesser grade. I'm not answering it. And he's like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna call your parents. Do it. Call Kevin. Call my
Here's
dad.
your number.
And then he was just literally, they would be like, go back to class. We don't want to deal with it. Like they were just like, we don't want to deal with it. Like the teacher just like let it go. And I mean, this is the experience of, I think of indoctrination, like when they talk about it, like my high school experience was the epitome of indoctrination.
Yeah.
Every Republican teacher that came in my presence, even to this day, um, still like talks about how outspoken I was and how I was just, you know, out there fighting the good fight. And I don't, it's like, sometimes I don't remember stories. And then I'll like a high school classmate who literally called me a communist all 4 years is now like a supporter and is voting for me, will tell this story that they remember of me like just out there doing the thing. I legitimately just not expecting that. Like it's very interesting to me because in my perspective I was being traumatized and I was like, I'm never coming back here, blah blah blah. And here I am now running for office, and these stories are coming out about me where I went to this last year, last March, I was at an event. I was speaking. I was one of the speakers, and there was a woman there, and she looked so familiar, but I couldn't quite place it. And then she spoke, and I was like, "That was my teacher," and she recognized me too. And we had this whole moment where I stopped speaking, and I went and hugged her. Like I just stopped. I was like, "Guys, I'm so sorry. I haven't seen her in years. She's one of my favorite." Blah blah blah. And then she told a story, and it was, none of this was scripted, but she told a story because she was black. And she said a student came at her, and I stepped in between and said, no, you're not going to do anything, you have to go through me. I have no memory of this. I remember an incident with a student being like bullying her and stepping up and standing, but like that was like a Tuesday for me. I just, and I, so she tells the story, and I just sat there for a moment, and I was like, oh, I've been doing this for years. I've been standing up for
Yeah.
people for years. Why
Yeah.
not run for office? Because if this
Right.
woman who I admired in school, this teacher that I thought would probably only think of me as this crazy little liberal kid, is here at an event while I'm speaking, we have not seen each other in 10 plus years, and she is telling his story, like, clearly I've been fighting since I had, I couldn't vote. So like, why not take it to the next level? And, I've been political for years. I didn't recognize it as being political because I just thought I was standing up for what was right and speaking out. And now it's just taking it to the next level.
That's wonderful to hear. It really is. I kids for kids that are hearing my voice right now, take note. You want to be respectful, but if you're going to have a smart mouth, at least have the education behind it. So
Mm-hmm.
then that way, when you do get sent to the principal's office, at least you'll be able to state your case and defend yourself.
Exactly. And I
Yeah?
didn't know what I was doing. I I just I had something to say, and
Right.
I didn't I didn't understand why this southern small town that has every reason to vote Democrat, to bring the economy, make it work for them, and make it speak for them, would tell me that I was indoctrinated, tell me that I would just get more conservative, tell me that my opinions were just because I was young. And now here I am, 33 years old, and I'm running for US Congress for my second time. I just I used to, like, I didn't realize that, like, now it's all coming together, that watching West Wing as a 5-year-old is not normal. But I did that because I think my parents were watching it on the TV and I genuinely enjoyed it. So Bradley Whitford, if you ever hear this, hello. Like, I was in, like, I loved it. I remember watching it and being like, this is what politics should be like, and
Yeah.
had that initial plan. I think there's a big generation of us who've grown up watching the West Wing, thinking of like the American president, and we're over here like, what is this?
Yeah. That's amazing. I
It's
mean,
fun stories like that.
yeah. Uh, The West Wing. I wonder. Well, no, because West Wing is too chock full of information and big words for current administration. But he, yeah, I I always say that the current administration has turned this country into a TV show. And then when you said West Wing, I was like, it's not even a good TV show. Like West Wing, West
You're
Wing
like,
motivated you to run for Congress. Like
right?
this TV show makes me want to run away from the country.
It's like, it's like a Timu, like, it's like a Timu West Wing.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it was supposed to be something, but really it just turned up in a cardboard box that had moldy fruits and vegetables, specifically a lot of
Yeah.
oranges, and like
Yeah.
some potatoes in there, no seasoning, nothing that tastes good. And you're just like, this is not what I ordered. I never expected idiocracy to be part of my life, but here we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. It's
And
like, do you remember Karen Ortiz? Karen Ortiz is the judge out of New York that got fired for standing up for LGBTQ rights,
yes,
right?
I
And I was
remember.
explaining, she was giving me her point of view
Hmm.
on the administration. And I asked her, what's your favorite movie? And she told me. And I said, now imagine having the script of it. What was it? Lolita, maybe?
Oh no.
Something like that. Anyway, I said, take the script from your favorite movie and hand it to the Three Stooges. That's what's happening right now.
It really is. It really is. Like, there's no production quality.
None.
Somebody just hired some D
Hair
level
and makeup
actors.
is terrible.
And here's the sad part, is I watch so much TV and movies, and I really love acting theory. It's how, like, I get through life, because like everything's unprecedented right now, so I just need some continuity for the
Yeah.
TV people out there. And I know how much goes into it. So to say that it's like a D-rated movie, like Timu
Yeah.
version, really is a disservice to those words, because like
Yeah.
so much goes in.
They say some of the corniest things, and I look at people and I'm like, you really do like this.
They do. They do. And
It's wild.
they buy it hook, line, and sinker. And it's not because there's a lot of things that go into it, but a big foundation of it is the lack of, like, understanding community at the center of it. Like, it really, like, we can blame everything else, but it's a lack of community. It's the American dream, but they've strangled the American dream so that you don't feel like you're part of anything. So you don't fight for anything but yourself. And that's a sad world to be in, because when, you travel to other countries, you can see that the community and the ecosystem's working and everything's just kind of like moving, instead of like this, Lion King 2, like, where the hyenas and the lions have run amok and everything's dry and barren, and there's no food, there's no water, there's no hope. And that's because, like, they can only stay in power if you stay complacent.
Let's talk about this is something that I've been hoping to be able to talk to anyone about, and you might be the perfect person.
Okay.
Explain to me this whole Southern life thing, this whole, the flag and the what is it about Southern culture that doesn't let people be American?
It's kind of like the mindset of nobody loves Texas like Texas loves Texas, like Texans love Texas. And I learned that
Yeah.
living in Texas for the second time, yes. Um, I lived there for a while, and I just recognized there's this pride, there's this love. And I mean, the food is fantastic. You have all these cultures. You have different types of cities. You've got San Antonio, which is just gorgeous. You've got Austin, which is hip and moving up in the world. You've got Dallas, which is kind of like a combination, like old school with Fort Worth right there. You know, it really gives you that old Southern, like Oregon Trail feel. You know, and what happens in the South is it's a combination of their Southern culture, which came from aristocracy and rich people who created these ways to carry yourself and behave. And then you have the other side of it, like the working class people, that it just kind of pulled in that vibe. And they, as the kind of like party system kind of like broke down, the class system kind of broke down, you see like those kind of started intertwine and see them really just intermingle.
Hmm.
But a lot of the heritage aspect is not born of the Civil War per se, but because of the results of the Civil War, they changed the
Yeah.
narrative. And
Yeah.
now you have this Southern pride of you don't want to be a Northerner, they're rude. You know, you want to be a Southerner, you want to smile, you want to say, bless your heart, which is not kind. It is an insult. If anyone tells you
It
bless your
is.
heart, go in the other direction because it is not meant. No.
My
And
sister-in-law's from Alabama and she says it all the time.
it's your heart. And
Bless
I'm
your
like,
heart.
and you're just like, you got that. I can't do a good Southern drawl, even though my cousins accuse me of sounding Southern sometimes,
Yeah.
which we fix very quickly. But Southerners don't find me Southern. They're like, no, you're a Yankee. I'm like, well, I've
Yeah.
been born, lived in the South, came from like one of the most southern states. Because if the weather doesn't get you, the people or the animals will. So, and it's its own vibe. That's Florida for everyone else. But I mean, that's part of the culture of the South, and there is some beauty in that because of like how people settled and whatnot. But there's a lot of abuse and oppression and um, turmoil that is wrapped up in it. So I think it's both things at the same time. It up until we had someone who was a sitting member of Congress who represented us up until 2002, who was a Dixiecrat and tried to start the Dixiecrat Party, and also would have had family that fought in the Civil War. And he was a sitting member of Congress until 2002, and that's Senator Strom Thurmond. He
That when he like 250 years old?
um he was old, and unfortunately for me, he is a good friend of the family.
Yeah.
So
Is he a
he
nice
was my
guy
grand.
at least?
I never met him, but he was my grandmother's godfather. Yeah, so I was at his funeral at like 10 years old. I don't like him because I've started asking the uncomfortable questions when it comes to our family history. Um, he wasn't a good person. He's a Dixiecrat, but he's part of that old guard that really moved through time, that really kind of rounds this out of like when we talk about Southern culture, these were people that were alive throughout like during that time frame, and that would have had grandparents to influence them. So a lot of Southern culture comes from this, we want to go back to the good old days, which is not good for everyone.
And this is where I find some of my frustration to build up
Mm-hmm.
is my all of my parents are from, well, my mom was born in New York, but my her parents were from the islands. My dad is from Cuba, right? When they came here, they laid down their flag and they picked up red, white, and blue. And then I, I served in the army and did all the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I look at these Dixiecrats and the Southern folks and stuff, and they're flying their flag that was literally against the flag that we like
Mm-hmm.
to choose to represent or that represents us.
Mm-hmm.
And then they look at me and say, "You're not American enough."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm
And
like, "Ain't that a bitch?"
you're like, no, that's not how that works, because you all are
Right.
literally flying a flag that is of secession,
Yeah.
leaving. And even if you get the argument, because I get this all the time. They're like, well, this flag wasn't the battle flag. It's like, I don't care. I don't
I'd
care. It doesn't
fly
matter.
red, white, and blue or get the hell out.
Exactly. Or don't wave a flag, because you don't
Or don't
you
wave a flag.
yeah, like there's a graffiti artist. There's like, people who wave flags don't deserve to have them. And it's like this false sense of like national pride that comes from waving a flag. And those same people who will wave a Confederate flag will wave an American flag and say, I love this country, but have a whole flag that represents separation and leaving and secession and all the things, because they didn't get their way and decided to stomp their feet. And that that cognitive dissonance really plays in, because then they tell you that you're not an American enough. I get it told all the time, because I have an immigrant for a father. Well,
Yeah.
if it's so bad here, why don't you just leave? And it's like,
Why don't you go to your country?
why don't you go to your country? I can't tell you how many times that I've been told that go back to my country, and I'm like, I was born in Florida. I mean, like, I had family on the
Yeah.
Mayflower. Back up. Like,
We've been here for a minute.
we've been here for a minute on that side, and if I have to claim it, I will. But like, calm down, Mister.
Yeah,
I
pipe
came
down
over,
tits.
Mister. I came over. Like Trump, whose like parents were both immigrants. Like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
And broke rules the entire time.
yeah. I mean, this. I think it's a lack of understanding. There's so much that goes into this, and it's like why I say that politics isn't like binary, or like you can't just separate it out and say this doesn't belong with this, because there's so much that is intertwined, just like with our history and our constitution. Going back to our original conversation at the beginning of like talking about these policies where you see leftists that just want to tear that up and start over. This is where that intertwine comes in, because there's so much rooted in our history. And you'll see people like me who want to say, I respect it. I respect what it made for the time, but it should be a living document. So we need to adjust it to 2026 and make it work for everyone, to protect immigrants, to protect our families, etc.
Yeah, because I bet you George Washington, with his wooden teeth, had zero clue what was going to happen with machine guns and AI.
No, they had no idea. These, like, the core of our country, and the immigration started like, that's something, give us your tired, but it didn't start that way. The initial pilgrims were political and religious exiles who were literally being kicked out of their country because they were considered too extreme. And they took that, came across the ocean, colonized, and in some of the most violent ways, as well as created this culture. And now we've got this culture of immigration. And here we are in 2026, 200, what, 50 years ago, 50 years. And we're telling immigrants they don't belong. Every single person on our soil is an immigrant in some way, shape, or form, whether it's their grandparents, their parents, great, 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 all the way back. Like, if you are not a Native American, you're an immigrant, and we're telling immigrants they don't belong here. And I just don't think that that's the move, because we've been selling the golden ticket for literal centuries, trying to get people to come here. We have whole shows dedicated to the Oregon Trail and the American West and the experience, these
Yeah.
harken times, and yet we're saying immigrants don't go. No,
Yeah.
no, that's just not. That's not. It's not American. It's not American. It's un-American, to be honest.
And we're learning, because there are folks, and listen, people that are sitting here probably shaking their fist at this video saying, "Oh, we can't afford it." Listen, I understand. I get it. But what we're doing with our money today is is we could be doing so many better things with the money that we're blowing overseas.
So much money is spent overseas. Like, I remember one of the facts that like always was mind-boggling to me is like when I would pose the question of like how many military bases does the U.S. have on its soil from other countries, and most people were like, "Wait, no, what?" And I'm like, "Zero." How many military bases do we have off of U.S. soil? And they'd be like, "Oh, it's like somewhat." I'm like, 800, like 23. And then they're
That's a
like,
lot.
"Wait, what?" Think about that. Think about that level of colonization, like that level of military presence across the world. I mean, you know it, you're a veteran. Like, this is that experience. And then we have the audacity to bring veterans home and be like, "Good luck, we're going to cut all your funding."
That's the part that that's the part that I always go off on this tangent, and I just need to. If you haven't been through basic training, if you haven't been through the military, you don't understand how they scramble your brain. You don't get it. That's this video. That's all I'm going to say, because I've said it on a bunch of different videos just going off. You don't understand. You don't understand what it is to go through the military and then be released. It's something as simple as when you're in the military, it's no man left behind. It's all about team. It's all about teamwork. Let's us, push, push, push. And then when you go into corporate America, it's backstabbing and everything is me, me, me. And it's all about me. And we're seeing it right now. If you have any question what America would look like if you ran it like a corporation, this is what it is. You have the boss and a bunch of sycophants.
And it's a micromanager for a boss,
And it's a micromanager for a
because
boss.
he is terrible,
Everything
and
has to go through him.
everything has to go through him, and he blames everyone else. That is a
Exactly.
telltale. I
Corporate
worked.
America to the T. And if there was one thing that I can have folks that say that is just take a look and see and notice. Please notice that it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Yeah, we get a lot of things done, but look at what's getting done. There's no education. There's no investing in education, no investing in infrastructure, no investing in anything but defense and crypto.
And crypto, and then telling you that you're the people that you should be angry at are immigrants
Look a
and
lot like me.
trans children. Literal two groups that one just wants to come here, have a better life, work, become citizens, love this country. Some of them love it more than both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then we have children who will make up or a fraction of a percent who have no, like, it's a non-starter for me. And that's who they're telling you to to focus on, when realistically your groceries haven't gotten cheaper, your gas is still going up. It's definitely gone up in the last week with this whole thing with Iran. Your
Yeah.
local
Yeah.
hospitals are closing, your jobs are laying people off. I live in the whiskey district, so even though I am this big rural district, I host Jack Daniels, George Dickel, and Uncle Nearest. So yes, I am a bourbon
Okay.
drinker and whiskey drinker, and I have the best district in the state of Tennessee, and I will die on that hill, because this is it. It's part of it. But these companies are laying off. These are massive employers. Jack Daniels, literally, most of the county that it is in, which is a dry county, you can't buy alcohol there, which is ironic,
That's
is
hilarious.
mostly everyone there is employed there. Like, they work, they're not, if they're not employed by Jack Daniels, they're leaving to go other places.
Yeah.
So this is my district, and we're being negatively affected because some man doesn't want the files to be released and doesn't want to take accountability and wants to protect his rich, creepy friends.
His friends. Yeah. Yeah. How do we, how do we, well, before we do that, what I don't really understand about the conservative movement is they rule by taking things away.
Hmm.
Oh,
They
this
can't
book
win.
hurt my
They can't win.
feelings. Take it away. That
Well, they
brown
can't win
kid
on it.
made me upset. Take him away.
Hmm.
You know?
Because anything that's outside of their small little box threatens their existence.
Yeah.
They are the type of people that you bought a house in this beautiful neighborhood. They want to put the HOA in and tell you every single thing that you can and cannot do, because they want their neighborhood to look a certain way and be a certain. This is a really great. Sorry, this is riffing. This is a riff, literally
No,
a riff.
this is helpful because I've been trying to figure it out. And if I can understand it, I can hopefully like um help walk people through that that's
Mm-hmm.
not the way to do things. You
Yeah,
know?
so like
So go ahead on your riff.
you got this beautiful neighborhood, and you know what, HOAs can be beneficial. Like, sometimes you want a little continuity. You don't want someone with junk piled in their yard. Um but when you step out of your front door and you step past that white picket fence, that 1950s house and this beautiful road and whatnot, you recognize that you're in your community, and that your community is not going to be just like your house. Those rules that you apply, the HOAs here and your household rules kind of intermix, but those rules apply to your house. Like, if you don't want your trash can to be blue, you want it to be red, you have a red trash can, but you don't have the right to tell the entire room. And they try to take
Yeah.
the system, take the HOA, and say, no, you have to be like this and look like this and sound like this and be like this. Instead of saying, you know what, maybe those rules apply to me. Maybe those feelings those big feelings, as I tell my 3-year-old when he's having them, maybe they're on you. Maybe that they're valid. They're valid. You have valid feelings, but they don't always correlate with the outside world. It's not always the outside world's fault that you're having those big feelings. Maybe we can help you. Say, like, maybe you need a hug. Maybe I am gentle parenting this too now. But I mean, but that's what it is. It's having these conversations make people feel safe in their communities and know that they're right to believe what they believe and feel how they feel and love who they love, and have those systems of belief aren't threatened by someone who's running for office who just wants you to have universal health care. It's not threatened by the trans kid down the road who just wants to exist. It's not threatened by the immigrant family who is fleeing a country for whatever reason. Or maybe they just want a better life for their children and they've been sold the American West and they love John Wayne movies and they are here. It's not threatened by those people, but you're being told that you're being threatened by those people. You're being told by people who have a vested interest in you not paying attention to the people literally forcing you into this HOA and then making it so that you'll never be able to escape, that you will be a corporate shill, you'll be working for corporations for the rest of your life, you won't be able to retire, you won't be able to pay your doctor's bills because you're going to go bankrupt. You might put off that cancer screening that you need to have and then find out you're stage 4, when if you had just gotten checked 6 months prior, you would have been okay. These are those people who are telling you to hate these people while robbing you blind. That's why, like, during my speeches, I say this isn't a right or a left fight. This is a bottom versus top fight. And the top 100%. Is telling you where to look and where to go. And it's on you to do that. And it's on me as a candidate for office, as a person running for office who's educated, is to help you understand the system and then also fix the system so that your life is, 1, better, 2, politicians are held accountable, and 3, the system is still here in 15, 20 years so that you can exist. Like, because you're not going to be able to, power only wants more power. You know, we always think of that Superman quote of, you know, with great power, no, it's not Superman, I'm gonna, Spider-Man, where they're saying with great power comes great responsibility. And that is, I'm really disappointed in my where great power comes great responsibility. My movie self is angry with me right now because I'm so much better than this. But I mean, this is that. And also, like, for the people watching, yeah, I'm a candidate for office, but yes, I watch a lot of Marvel and a lot of TV shows. This is what you're missing. If I sound like this great candidate that we're having this great conversation, it's not just because that this is my second run for office. It's also because I'm a real person and I recognize that our system is failing us and we deserve better representation. And I want to show you that it's possible, because maybe I didn't create the problem, but sure as hell I'm not going to sit by and not fix it.
And that's so important for people to understand. We have so many politicians, and I currently live in California. I'm still trying to figure out why people hate Gavin Newsom. And the best excuse I've gotten is that he's just a politician. He's just a career politician, and people don't like career politicians.
I have a different answer to that.
Do you? What is it?
Oh, I mean, just because I think he's gearing up for a presidential run. And I like Gavin Newsom. I like the way he punches at this administration. I like what he's done in California. What I don't like is that he abandons marginalized communities when it suits him, because he is looking for that moderate vote. And a lot of people think that moderate voters want you to vote on things like trans rights and LGBTQA rights and, you know, abortion. Moderate voters aren't what we're looking for. We're looking for swing voters, and swing voters are different. Swing voters vote on the economy. They're immigrants who want to see that their local shop where everyone comes to get their, you know, Mexican candy or, you know, Cuban candy, they thrive and they are seeing the benefits of their community. It's the working person who's like, hey, I need this retirement fund to work for me. I need my 401k to do well, so I'm going to vote on that. Those are swing voters. They're not people who are like, I don't want to see trans kids. That's not a swing voter. Maybe there's like a small fraction of them, but it's the exception. It's not the rule. And I think that's where I disagree with the Gavin Newsom thing as a candidate. I disagree with him because I learned that standing on business does way better with voters than being 100%. Wishy-washy. As well as people will tell you all the time that you'll lose an election over LGBTQAI plus rights or supporting Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. I'm like, no, you don't lose elections over that. You lose elections when there's voter apathy, when we have candidates and political parties that are not representing the people, and when we're not putting forward the candidates that people want to hear. I didn't get any help in 2024. I doubt I'll get help in 2026, and that's fine with me. I'd rather get this on my own. I'd rather do the work and build the coalition and show that better representation is possible without a political party. Because yes, I'm running as a Democrat, but we're in a two-party system. There are only two methods of transportation. Bringing this back to that, where I was talking about the house with the white picket fence, you're not buying that when you're voting. You are getting on a bus going in the direction you want to go. And where you get off is your choice. And you might want to say, a leftist might stay on the bus for the entire time if the candidate is going in that direction and the politician's going in that direction. But that's not always the case. So you have the choice every 2 years to hop on a different bus and make a calculated decision based on the candidate that's on the ballot. And you can do that all the way down to a local level. That is why we're here. We're in this because we're in a two-party system, and a lot of people don't understand how it works, and they're disenfranchised. And like bringing that back to Gavin Newsom, he is going to likely be a higher candidate. So like, would I want to vote for him? No. But how I fix that is being consistent in my voting. I say, okay, I want to vote for progressive down ballot candidates because those are candidates who will run for president. And yes, president is a great role. It's like the epitome of your career. It is the first question I will get asked when I'm elected to office is, are you going to run for president? And the answer is, can we just do the work? And then I'll talk about that, because it just sounds like a big job. And the work is in Congress. It's not in the White House. Like, there is work there, and we want a good representation there. But I would rather, make sure that we've got a fully stacked team, if you will, going all the way down, because those things affect your life. Local and state candidates and politicians affect your daily life. Federal candidates affect the economy and affect how the laws of the land work. And if you loved the color blue, and Congress said we only like green over here and made it illegal, that would be something that Congress could do at a federal level. And a state might say, well, no, we like purple over here. And the federal laws, no, green's the color. Like, that is a simplistic way of putting this into context for voters. And so when we look at Gavin Newsom, he's not a perfect candidate. He's got some things that I disagree with, and given the opportunity, I'd vote for someone else. Now, if he is at the top of the ticket in 2028 and that is the choice, I will vote for him through gritted teeth. But my goal is a candidate who will be in office when he is elected into office. I will say, let's make this better. Let's make it so that progressives can run on the ballot as progressives. They don't have to run as Democrats. Let's make it so that there are protections in place in Congress to protect our trans youth, to protect our rights, to protect abortion, whatever. Those are things I can tangibly do in Congress that, while maybe I don't like the president, Gavin, if you're out there and you want a free tip, stop throwing marginalized communities under the bus, for the love of God. Like, just stop doing
Track the money for it that's supposed to go to homeless people. Track that and figure out where that went.
And I think that's where we're starting to see those beginnings of more engaged voters. So we're starting to think about the 2028 election. Also, we're all just hope and a prayer for 2028 to just make it here and we just come out unscathed, barely. But this is where we're starting to have these conversations of why we don't like him. And, that's where my education comes in, and pushing for down ballot voting, because yes, he could be elected, but if Congress has a full slate of people who are LGBTQA rights are protected, let's put Roe back in place and codify it. Let's make sure that gay marriage is codified. Let's make sure that your healthcare, universal healthcare, Medicare for all, is a policy. We're not going to have to worry so much about what he's doing up at the top. He can just be over there, maybe punching at Donald, who's probably going to be having some big feelings about losing another election. But we'll just let him do that while we make sure that your pocketbook and your life is livable. Because, what good is the American dream if you can't afford it?
Yeah. I want to drop this in here, and this is specifically for the good people of Tennessee 4. I talk to a lot of political hopefuls, and the more, let me say it like this: more candidates would rather be independent than they would under any of the two umbrellas, because good people of Tennessee, you are correct. Politicians are in it for themselves. Up to this point, politicians have been in it up to themselves. And yes, both branches of the political machine do play games with the money, and they do, all that crony capitalism, all that shady stuff. They do all of that. But for someone like a Victoria that would rather, probably, I'm assuming, I'm jumping on assumptions right now, you would rather go and be Victoria Broderick than Democrat Victoria Broderick,
Yeah. I
right?
want people to vote for me because of my policy, not because of the letter beside my name. I want you
Right.
to buy in, which I guess we could do that at some point. I'll let them buy into me.
Yeah. But like, to finish up my point, um you have to leverage the machine that is the Democratic Party. And what people don't realize is you get access to like phone banks and to other like mailing lists and all kinds of stuff. So it
Mhm.
helps make your job easier. I'm trying to break this down for normal people because this is stuff that I have been learning. So when people say, "Oh, money, all the money, and all that things are
Mhm.
fixed and all this stuff," this is everything that Victoria is doing with the Democratic Party. She's leveraging the machine that they have so she can reach out to you guys.
Mhm. And I'm
Yeah,
actively changing the party. I'm
yeah,
actively on the ground changing the party. You want to talk
yeah.
about that?
Yes, please.
So let's talk a little bit about the political machine. So money out of politics quite often does not include candidates. Candidates don't get that same grace and space in the money out of politics game. Now we are seeing a shift. So I'm a grassroots candidate. So for those who don't know, I'll do my little stump speech because I think this is where it really brings home what I'm doing. So I'm Victoria Broderick and I'm running for Congress in Tennessee's District 4. I am a working class mom. I ran my first race in 2024, a hard launch into politics because I found out my opponent was going to run unopposed, and I said, over my dead body. I ran a congressional race in 5 months, raising two tiny humans, four fair babies, and fostering with our local humane society while working full time, raising over $120,000 in 5 months. And what we learned after I lost my election is it worked. People bought in. And about 15 seconds after I lost, before the numbers even came back, I had already decided I was going to run again. But when people asked me how I got here, it didn't start in 2024. That was my hard launch into politics. It
Yeah,
started in 2021 when I suffered an IUD fail and found out I was pregnant. I had a 13-month-old baby at home and I was navigating a complicated pregnancy and our medical care system. And what's significant about 2021? Roe was still in place. I had all the things that I would need if anything went wrong. Unfortunately, I miscarried and about a month later found out I was pregnant again and had to navigate again a complicated pregnancy, a system that is, hard. I was lucky. I had a beautiful baby 9 months later, but while I was on maternity leave, Roe was overturned. And I did the logical thing. I became livid and did a TikTok called the Friendly Neighborhood Liberal and started yelling at people on the internet and also educating voters. I also, a month later, became a county chair of one of the 93 counties in Tennessee at the time. Now, every single county has a Democratic Party. And I started not only working within the party to make change and build recognition and build back the Democratic Party that had been abandoned because of the system, I started I was educating and whatnot. It came up that my opponent was going to run unopposed. I hard launched because that's where candidates come out of. They come out of random places or they come out of experience. And I didn't stop my candidate experience and stop my party engagement because in 2025, I was appointed to the Tennessee State Executive Committee because there was someone stepping down, and I got party calls from across the state asking me to step into it because I was a progressive, because I was so outspoken, because of the work I had done at a county party level and as a congressional candidate. And I am actively working within the Tennessee State Party to advocate for more progressive policies, for candidates to have more support so we can see working class people able to do this. I was able to leverage the system in my favor. And I didn't realize how my work had played out until candidates and people like Gloria Johnson will take my phone call. When I can reach out, I can get on a county meeting, like a statewide meeting, and people are like, oh my God, it's Victoria. Or they come up to me in an executive committee meeting and someone's like, I follow you on TikTok. I love your content so much. Like, it's that moment of like recognizing the work we're doing. And I didn't have a plan. So this is how we fix the system. I recognize as a candidate, I've experienced the abandonment that comes from not only the party, but from the system. I've just not let it stop me because that's just not who I am. And that $120,000 that I talk about, which is a amazing amount because I was literally told 2 days into deciding to run for office, they're begging for a candidate that I'd be lucky if I raised $50,000. I'd be lucky to make it through this election. They literally are writing me off in the beginning. These are people within the Democratic Party at the time. And I raised $120,000 and 95% of that is small dollar donations, so $200 or less. I didn't take a single corporate dollar and I did corporate PAC dollar, nor did I take any APAC money. And I was the only federal candidate in 2024 in the state of Tennessee to sign a pro-peace pledge because I support Palestine. And I grew the district. That is what shows you what is possible when you utilize the system. You stand on principle and you don't stop, because I'm fun sized and feral. I have a t-shirt. Go find it on my website.
Fun size and feral.
It's so much fun. But this is,
Your social media is so much fun, but go ahead.
I know. I mean, my social media, it's a product of being a content creator prior to running for office. And like a lot of my followers have come after my run for office, but I never lost that authenticity. You know, I never lost that personality. You'll see it. We talk about it so much. I get met by people and they're like, oh my God, you're just like that I thought you would be, except you're short. Like, I was like, I don't know what you mean. So I started joking. I've started joking in the groups and be like, I'm fun sized and feral. And I put it on a t-shirt because so many content creators, these big content creators who I'm like a huge fan of, are like, no, I love this. Put it on a shirt. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. I mean, this is that fun side of it. So like real candidates, like I'm sure you're getting to experience, you're just real people doing real things. And, you know, I say I'm a politician all the time, but the most shady thing about me is I have tattoos. Like, that's the most shady thing about me. Everything else, here we are. So that's my elevator pitch that kind of like shows you what is possible when you utilize the system and you advocate for change.
So when you're advocating for change and you are out, whether it be you're making phone calls, you're knocking on doors, all that, there's a lot of work to doing what you do. But when you're out there, how do you explain something like universal health care to someone who might be more conservative minded?
I mean, I just sit down and I'm like, okay, like, I was like, do you ever think about going to the hospital? And they'll be like, yeah. I'm like, why do you think about it? Well, I'm worried about my deductible. I'm worried about what I might be diagnosed with. I'm worried about the wait times and whatnot. Say, okay, Yeah, like I get that. I was like, wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to worry about the cost, that you could maybe go to the doctor a couple days earlier than deciding to go to the hospital? And they're like, yeah, that'd be nice. Like, be really good. Be really great if like your taxes, like if you didn't have to worry about walking away with a bill, you know? And it's really simple in that conversation. Like, I get it. I get it. You're afraid. You're like, it's new. The private system does so. I was like, but like those wait times, you still gonna. How often do you have to wait in the ER? And they're like 4 or 5 hours. It's the same.
It's the
I
same.
was like, that's a
But you have to
short.
pay way more. But you have to
That
pay way more for that wait.
Yeah. I was like, it's the difference between. I explain it. I love putting it in this perspective too, especially when it comes around like when we talk about pregnancy and babies and whatnot. I'm like, the average cost for a birth in the United States is like $9,000 to $10,000, 9 to 15,000, and that's a natural birth. That's maybe you got the epidural because it's been a hard pregnancy, and you do you, girl. We want to make sure
Sure.
that those epidurals are nice. And you know what? Your birth plan, your choice. You are bringing life into this world. Like, you pick the best method for you. I was like, but think about it. Let's like ten to $15,000. If you have a C-section, it's $30,000, and you're going to be kicked out of the hospital, regardless of if it came out naturally or if you had a C-section, in 48 hours because of private health insurance, because they don't want to pay more. Instead of your medical professional saying, you know what, she had a C-section, it was a really hard labor. Let's keep her in for 5 to 7 days so that she has extra care for the baby that she's just brought into this world after 9 months, and also for herself. Maybe she gets a little extra time. And then you have another mom who's like, pop the kid out, I'm ready to go home. That's me. I did that with my second kid. I had my second child, and as soon as she said, do you want to go home, within like 24, I was like, yes, I want to sleep in my bed. I was like, I'm 5 minutes from the hospital. Let's go. And she let me go home because, like, I private insurance, all those things. It's allowing the medical professional and the individual to determine the best course of action for them, and to take the someone who just needs to make a profit, because he's trying to cut those bills. He doesn't want you staying there longer because he wants that extra 50 cents. You're going to get a $500 bill, but he's going to get a little bit more than that. It that was, the math was wrong. Anyway, I work full time, guys. Like, this is part of it. But I mean, this is that how I speak to moderate voters. But a lot of the time now, when I'm encountering moderates, it's they want to know if I'm taking corporate PAC money. They want to know if I'm taking APAC money. They want to know where I stand on the war. They want
Those
to
are all
know.
very good questions. Keep
And
asking those questions, you guys.
keep asking them. Ask your candidates where they stand. This is the time to pick the candidate for yourself. Your primaries, depending on what state you're in, are coming up. Mine's in August. But these are the questions that I'm getting asked now. I had a Republican come up after a forum, and I never hide where I stand on the political spectrum, but people come up and they're like, you just sound so reasonable. And I'm like, because it's policy. Because we're not
Yeah.
talking about hating an immigrant. We're
Right.
talking about your life being affordable, and your children being able to go to a good school, and there to be a playground in like less than a mile from your house, and that small coffee shop that you love because you don't want to go to a big brand box store is able to stay open because they're not worrying about what someone's tweeted on Timu Twitter today.
Right.
Like, they're not
Right.
worried about that. And, you know,
TV Twitter.
I can't take credit for that. That's True Social.
I
Um,
love that.
I can't. My friend USMC says that all the time. USMC angry veteran, guys. But I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
he says it a lot. But like, this is how we talk to voters, but they're not used to it because they're used to being talked at by corporate politicians who are 2D, who put the suit
Yeah.
on and are like, whatever. And I'm like, if someone walks away from a town hall with me, or a forum, or a conversation, and they're like, I can have a beer with her, I know I've done my job right.
Yeah.
I know I've met them where they are. I know I've had the conversation. And that has led to some really interesting conversations, some really loyal voters. I have some of the best people in my district, and they show up, and I'm just like, what are you, how are you, like, whatnot, and they're not used to it because we have not my opponent, who we can always talk about, because I mean, he's the epitome of what is wrong with politics.
Does he even
Because
live in your district anymore?
no,
No. You
no,
see, and good people, good people of Tennessee, that's another thing. Please, please stop letting these rich folks that don't even live in your district tell you what to do within your district.
mm-hmm.
If they're not struggling with you on the day to day, why are you giving them the job?
Yeah. Why?
Please.
I plan on living in my town, so this is a great time to talk about my opponent because a lot of people don't know about him. Because while he is a MAGA Republican, he's not loud and outspoken. So my opponent is
Yeah.
Scott Desjardins.
Mhm.
He has been in office since 2012. So he's going to be a 16-year incumbent. I am hit. The first year that he wasn't going to be opposed was in 2024 when I stepped up. Now, what people need to know about my opponent is Scott Desjardins is most famously known for a few things. One, that is pulling a gun on his wife and dry firing through a door and forcing her to get an abortion. That came out in divorce documents in 2012 after he was elected. He's forced two
Wow.
of, yeah. I just go ahead and just hold the beer because it's gonna get better, guys. If you're watching this, listening, whatever, just go ahead and hold your beer because
Tennessee 4. Come on, y'all.
okay. So he's also forced two other partners to get abortions because they were patients because he's a medical professional and he was trading medicine for relations with his patients, and this was what happened with that. So he's forced two other patients to get abortions. God has forgiven him. Don't worry, guys. He found Jesus. Um, I don't know where.
Is he the kind of Christian that wears Daisy Dukes and dances around?
He looks like a
No.
potato.
He went.
He looks like a potato.
Oh,
You should just Google a picture while I'm doing this whole little spiel.
go for it. I'm
So
gonna look him up.
look up Scott Desjardins. Desjardins or Desjardins. So he has been voted by a conservative magazine the worst congressional Republican. He is a Tea Party Republican, big Trumper, and has been caught in closed door sessions in our district, saying if he speaks to voters, he loses votes. So this is our representation. He saw the picture, guys, of my opponent. I think this would be a good time in the video to like just clip a picture of him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
notes time.
Bald dude, bald dude. Yeah, chin
Potato.
kind of sinking into his throat. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Slag jaw fella. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's him.
You know,
Hi.
he had the audacity at one point to chastise another member of Congress for missing 3 days of work, while this dude was having chemo treatments on the government and missed most of his votes one semester, like one of the semesters of like Congress.
Yeah.
3 days. One of his coworkers, 3 days, and had the audacity. And I think those days were taken off for like a family member passed and whatnot. And this
Yeah.
dude, who's had all of his medical bills covered, doesn't have to think about cancer treatment, whatever. And he has the audacity to be like, "You missed 3 days? Okay, bro."
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a vibe. And I
he
know he knows
he
about me at
he
this point.
he I don't know him, so I'm going to not go as hard on him, but he looks like someone who uh,
Dry
don't work too
fires on his
hard.
wife and
Who
forces
doesn't?
them to get an
Yeah, he
abortion.
don't work too hard. He don't work too hard.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it about him that why do people continue to vote for him? Is it just be
Republican. And apathy, voter apathy. we have about a 10% voter turnout rate in Tennessee. Like, people don't show up. And
So
that's
like
because
nobody votes.
nobody votes. That's why, like, I say it's
Tennessee,
so
come
important to
on.
vote down ballot, because a lot of these races come down to single digit numbers. And
Yeah.
so it's really easy to see, like, so in a general election, if you look at our district, I think he got like somewhere around, it's like 100 and some 50,000 votes or whatnot. Because I know my number better than I know his number, because I had to like figure out like that math of like, did I in fact do something? And I did. Um, People just don't show up, or they just feel like they can't show up because there's not good representation, or the Democratic Party has failed them because these county parties are struggling to keep people on. They're going based on antiquated pre-Obama era like policies and bylaws, where the average person, the average voter, the millennial who is coming up, basically this election cycle will make or break the election, are just not engaged because we're working. We don't have all this free time that our parents have.
Yeah.
We don't have
Yep.
that time, and a lot of this work is volunteer. My state EC position is volunteer. So when I do a state EC thing, I have to pay for that out of pocket. I don't know about you, everything's expensive right now. So I have to think
Everything.
about it. I have to think about every single dollar that I spend, and that's not common for most congressional candidates, because here's this dude who's a medical professional, who's from a different era, who's been in office for 16 years, doesn't have to think about it. He's sitting on $500,000 in his congressional budget, and he won't lift a finger until he thinks that his seat is threatened. Whereas a congressional candidate for Congress, I worked full time during my election. So my schedule looks crazy to some people. I know you worked really hard with me to like schedule everything out. I had to like get all the details and whatnot. And then I hopped on here after I got off work. So whenever you guys are looking at this, I've worked a full day. I have two tiny humans. I've been up since about 5:45 this morning.
Super mom.
My day doesn't stop. And
Yeah.
I do congressional work all like in the mornings, and then I start my work life, and we were literally talking about how my product went down, and I was supporting that, and like, and then
Let
I
people know
campaign
what you
after.
do. Let people know what you do for a living from between 9 and 5.
So between 9 and 5, I am a tech support person. So how I explain this in my district to older voters is, I'm the person who asks you if you turned it off and on, off and on again. I'm that person.
Have you
But
restarted your computer?
have you restarted it? Have you cleared your cache? So that's so. But for those who don't like, who are a little bit more tech savvy, maybe a little bit more millennial, I support SaaS products, and I've been doing this for about probably 5.5 years by the time I win this election. So I do lots of support. I've supported different types of products. I have a unique experience in the tech industry of watching the industry change with administration and watching the economy affect that. I also have like a front seat view of what AI will do to my industry if it's left unregulated and just,
Yeah.
untouched. But prior to that, for people who are like, well, what did you do prior to that? I worked in international domestic logistics. My job was importing products from China, India, Italy, Spain, um, into the United States. And I was negatively affected by the tariffs in 2017 and 2018, where we had $3.5 million worth of freight on a freight liner, that now the tariff had changed and we had all of our contracts paid. And at the time, my job was trying to explain to customer service why the product wasn't already on US soil and was going to be delayed another month. And not knowing the back end side of it is, our company's like owners, a small business that literally worked with larger industries that thought that the tariffs would benefit them, and then realized very quickly that they could not compete because the infrastructure wasn't there. This small business had to decide if it was going to pay the additional cost and just risk the company to keep the contract with the larger company or go bankrupt. So they paid, and I lost my job. My job was literally sent over to China for someone else to do. I trained people to do my job, and
Yeah.
that was the first experience. And then I moved into just domestic logistics, and I watched the pandemic go full swing and not be controlled. And then I also witnessed what happens when you're a working mother and you're coming back into the workforce after maternity leave, and how cutthroat companies can be, because you're so it's this weird last almost 10 years of experience that has driven a political activism, because I recognized that, one, I wasn't being represented well, but two, that how are they going to know what it's like on the ground if they've never worked in international domestic logistics and know the tariff, know the travel time, know how contracts work? How are they going to understand how AI is going to negatively affect an entire industry when ChatGPT can literally write an email in my voice? Because there's no regulation, and my company could axe most of my job and hire one person and let ChatGPT answer emails, because ChatGPT can now write emails in customer service voices across this country, because we're literally training it. Because instead of treating it like a tool and regulating it like a tool, it's going to become a whole person. Outside of this, I went down a rabbit hole on a podcast thanks to my husband over the weekend, and I was just like, we've seen this Will Smith movie. But that's my work experience. I'm a customer service person. I worked all throughout university. My degree was in corporate communication with a minor in health from Austin Peay State University. Let's go P, Clarksville, Tennessee. You would know Clarksville because it's a military area. But let's go P. And moved into the industry, like working. I've been working in customer service my entire life. Everything's just a version of customer service, and I will treat Congress no differently.
And let me explain to you, if I was in Tennessee, specifically Tennessee 4, why I would be taking a serious look at you as a candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors and stuff, okay, fine. But if you understand software development and customer service, all you are, your brain knows how to problem solve. And understanding logistics and international relationships and all that stuff, all of those skills are so incredibly important when you're dealing with some hardheads in Washington that don't want to move because they're comfortable doing the same old thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, the good folks of Tennessee still have these problems that aren't going away. And for generations, we've been asking for help. I'm assuming, I've never lived in Tennessee, but I'm assuming good folks of Tennessee are good and goddamn tired of people saying, we're going to fix it, and nothing has changed. And if anything, it's gotten worse.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've recognized it, having lived in this district as a child. I mean, graduated and gone to university. I've watched our roads degrade over since 2008. I remember when we first moved here, because I came from Georgia, which is a big, I came outside of Atlanta, which is like, I say Atlanta, but it was like Lilburn and Stone Mountain area. Like, it's that area of town. And I remember our roads were so smooth. And I remember I commented on, my parents commented on how smooth the roads were. But up until 2008, we were represented by a Democrat in Congress. My district was blue, and there wasn't a supermajority. But then in 2011, there was a down ballot initiative with the Republican Party, so they flooded the market. And I mean, they made it so that they flipped all these seats, and then they gerrymandered it, and made it harder. Made it harder for people to run for office, made it harder for people to get elected, it made it harder for people to feel represented in their districts. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is there a way to just do away with all gerrymandering? Like, stop drawing these goofy maps that all they do is degrade. Is that the right word? Degrade. They it yeah they degrade our our trust in the system.
Yeah. I mean, there is a way to do this, but it's multifaceted. Like, so like the
Yeah.
easy answer is yes, we can fix it. Is it easy? No. So like it's a combination of things. So like a lot of our representation and the way that our representation is based out of the Civil War. The reason that we have the 3/5 part of our Constitution is because Southern plantation owners wanted to make sure they had just a little bit more leverage in Congress. And when they didn't get their way, they stomped their feet and seceded from the United States. So I just bring it all back to that Southern standard, whatnot. I told you I was a good talker. I told you I like doing this.
Yeah.
So it's that. It's ranked choice voting. It's also, and this is the
Ranked choice
beauty of
voting
this.
is a good one.
This is also the beauty of this is what I am doing when I flip this district, and I'm going to flip it. What it proves is that not only that my policies work, because I can't take credit for the administration doing their TMU whatever, but I can say that I've been putting the work in for 2 years. I've been meeting with voters for 2 years. When I flip this district, it's already been gerrymandered to hell and back. So
Yeah.
there's not a real way for them to do it. And once I'm in office, it's much easier to keep said office than it is to build the momentum because people are going to get used to it. People are disenfranchised right now. And that's not to say I want term limits. I want to make sure that I'm not sitting in Congress getting, high on the hog. I want to dip out, guys. I want to write the novel of how not the novel, but the like memoir of how I flipped this. Maybe I'll write a
Yeah.
novel too. But this is how we do it. So like, yes, we can do all those other things, but right now, what I'm telling voters is if you want to be a player on the field, if you want to see strategic change, voting blue down ballot is the way to do it. Because even if the 2026 election is, it is rigged, which it will be rigged. There is no if, ands, or but if, ands, or buts about that. If you're hearing that, you're like, oh God, what's the point? The only thing that they cannot control is voter turnout. You being engaged, you hearing this podcast, you seeing what's going on in the news and saying, I'm going to go to the ballot box and I'm going to vote Democrat down ballot. Maybe I found the right candidate. Maybe I don't know. But I'm going to vote Democrat. What you are saying is you care. And what that means is states like Tennessee, states like Georgia, states like North Carolina are players on the field where we don't have to rely on states like California and Michigan and North Carolina, which is kind of on the teetering edge of a purple state. We don't have to rely
Mm-hmm.
on them. We're flipping every district. We're engaged in a way that we've never seen before. And what does that mean for you? It means lower gas prices. It means lower, grocery prices. It means corporations paying their fair share so that you get paid well. It means Medicare for all so that you're not having to sit at that 9 to 5 job being like, I hate this job. I hate doing this. You can go out and start that small business you've been thinking about
That's
because
the
the
big one.
loans are there,
Yeah. And not
because you don't
just
have to worry
that,
about it.
and not just the loans, but like imagine if you wanted to start your own business and all you needed was $10,000 or $15,000. That $10,000 or $15,000 didn't go to your prescriptions or to the ER visit or to the doctor visit or whatever. It's already yours. Now you don't have to ask anyone to spend your money on creating your own business.
And you don't have to worry about it. Think about it. If you're listening to this video, if you're listening to anything that I say, why haven't you started your own business? Is it because you're worried about your family and having health insurance because you know that medical care costs are out of control? If that is the reason, Medicare for all, universal health care, if you will,
Right.
fixes
It
that
helps you reach a little further.
a little further because then you can work a barista job that everyone tells you is just for, what, a college student. You can do that and start planning out your process, getting the loans approved or whatever. And you don't have to worry about it if you decide to throw caution to the wind and start your business.
Yeah,
It's money in your pocket, and it helps the
exactly.
economy, because when small
Exactly.
businesses don't have to worry about their employees, and they don't have to worry about the district as a whole, their communities, people spend more money. People have more spending money. They're more likely to show up. They're more likely to start businesses, and that makes it
Hmm.
competitive. That means
Yeah.
that you're not having to worry about, you don't need the local Starbucks to open up in your county, because there's two beautiful coffee shops that have
Mom and pop shops. Yep.
mom and pop shops that are places that you want to go. You have a restaurant there. Maybe you have a local grocery store. You have a local pharmacy. You have a local shop that you can buy from. So you're not having to buy from Amazon. But because they're not competing with Amazon, because Amazon's paying its fair share, they
Hmm.
can put those prices closer, so that maybe you're spending 50 cents more. But guess what? You're not worried about an unexpected medical bill. You're not worried about childcare. You're not worried about your kids, schooling, because this education system is work. This is how it works
And
for you.
even more apropos, according to what's happening these days, is wouldn't you rather have a group of people that is trying to invest in you and your health and your ability, your education, and your ability to start a company and your ability to do all these things, instead of taking all this money, running Doge all crazy, and then taking all your taxes and bombing other countries? That's the only thing they are worried about right now. They're trying to collect oil and natural resources so they can do whatever goofiness they want to do. And it doesn't help you on the day to day. Your roads are busted. They did away with the education, Department of Education. They're taking things away from you and they're repurposing it to bomb people in other countries. Think about that.
Yeah. And they're telling you that it will be more expensive. I already pay a lot of money in these costs. I already live in a town where there's no daycare, like there's no open daycare spots. So I have to go
Yeah.
private. Like, these are things that I wouldn't have to worry about if we had a built out maternity care plan
Mm-hmm.
where you get 6 months maternity leave, and you have the option to maybe stay home for a year so that you get that first year out of your kids, because it's like a vital
Yeah.
time. It's so beautiful and so.
100%.
But if you want to go back to work, there's a daycare center that is affordable, because
Mm-hmm.
we understand that the earlier we start with education, the better the outcomes. When parents are
Right.
taken care of and communities are taken care of, not only do they have more kids, they spend more in their community, they invest more in their community. But they don't want that, because if you're struggling every single day, you're not going to have the energy to show up and say,
Yeah.
hey, you work for me, where's my coffee? And
Yeah.
my version of coffee is legislation that pays out for you. It's making sure that, I'm not taking corporate money. That's why I'm not going to get supported. Is I don't take corporate PAC money. I don't take APAC money. I actively speak about money out of politics. I
Mm-hmm.
ran my congressional campaign in a way that nobody wanted me to, working full time. Being a young mother with a 3 and a 5-year-old, at the time, a 2 and a 4-year-old, fostering with our local humane society. These are not things they want to see, because it proves that the system is fallible. It
Yeah.
proves that I can break the system with the right messaging, with the right strategy, and with just sheer work that I'm doing. This is what they don't want. They don't want people like me, because I can't be bought, because I'm
Yeah.
working for you and not
Right.
for that. And why don't you, like, the question I ask voters is, why don't you want better for you? What is it about my
Right.
platform that makes you think I'm not going to work just as hard for you? Is it because you think that I'm too far left? Well, look at my policy. Pick two things that you like and decide. And then in 2 years, if you don't like it, vote me out. It's not going to be
And
personal for me.
remember, and remember, The incumbent has been in there for 16 years. And
Yeah.
how's your life looking?
Yep. Because I mean, he's over here. He literally posted, I think it was like 20 in the last 24 hours. We have a veterans hospital closing in my district, and I am not surprised for it. I literally screenshotted that I was planning on making a video, and then things happened. And all I can think is he's saying that he got no notification. Bro, I've been in the district for months, and I knew this was going to happen. I knew that this was coming, but there's nothing I can do about it other than me speaking about it actively. And you're a sitting member of Congress with a child in the army, and you're surprised that you voted to disenfranchise our veterans. The minute you're like these brave souls, I know for a fact that you're going to prop up on Veterans Day and be like, they're the greatest, blah, blah, and then do absolutely fuck all for them
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
office. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather every veteran question every single decision I make just to know that their healthcare is going to be maintained because they served our
Yeah.
country and that's an honorable thing than whatever he is doing. Because like, why? Like, I'm not shocked, but he posts this whole letter, sends it out, blah blah blah. I knew this was going to happen months
Yeah.
ago. Where were you?
Yeah.
You're not engaged. You don't live in the district. You're not here. You're not in your community. You're not prioritizing. You're afraid of talking to voters because you'll lose votes.
What are some of the biggest issues that the good people of Tennessee for have to contend with? And what are some ideas that you have that would help fix those issues?
I mean, first and foremost, we have to address the healthcare in the room.
Yeah.
This is something that my district struggles with. I have a post about this. About 45%, almost 50% of the children in my district are on some form of government health care. I have literal counties in my district where 45 to 50% of the children are on this. And we just cut Medicaid funding.
Mm.
And
Mm.
for Tennesseans, they're like, well, that's not me. That's TennCare. TennCare is Medicaid. It is literally takes care of our elderly and takes care of our youth. And there is a small group of people who are of like working age who need access to that, whether it's a mother who's lost her job, been there, done that, and needs to needs the healthcare system, or it's just a young person who's going through a mental health crisis and their family needs those resources. But this is my district. My district, we used to suffer a maternity care ward that closed in Giles County, which is Pulaski, Tennessee. If that sounds familiar, that's because where the KKK started. But this is one of the counties in my district, and their maternity ward closed. So now those patients who have maybe an OB right there have to drive 45 minutes to an hour to the next closest hospital, whether that's in my town or in Huntsville, Alabama. They have to cross the state line, or they have to drive an hour and a half north to Nashville, Tennessee to get care, which a lot of people bypass any of the towns between there because they want to go to Vanderbilt, they want to go to Centennial, Women's Health, those things. They should be able to. But realistically, they shouldn't have had their OB office in a rural district close. Their OB, these are wards that are needed for people who are just working class people who maybe live in an area where it's hard to get cell service. That is a big part of a rural district. And so healthcare is a huge part of that. Jobs is a huge part of that because we're losing jobs as a rural district. We lose jobs to young people having to leave. They have to go to a big city. It's a
Mm-hmm.
rural district, so they have to go to Chattanooga, they have to go to Nashville, they have to go south to Huntsville, they have to go leave the state. That shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be a thing. We should have access to Wi-Fi and fast internet as
Yeah.
we are part of the state. Just outside of my district is Chattanooga, Tennessee, which has Google Fiber throughout the entire city. It is one of the fastest Wi-Fi cities in I think pretty sure the country. Don't quote me on that. But this is that district. We're also rural, like farmers. Our farmers are not suffering at the moment with the soybean contracts, because a lot of our soybean contracts go to hunts like Alabama. However, as time progresses, as these things progress, we're going to see that more. The longer the tariffs stay in place, we've got in the whiskey district, George Dickel, Jack Daniels, Uncle Nearest. These are distilleries, Jack Daniels in particular, where literal countries are their top buyers. I want to say it was like 2011. The country of Spain was the fifth largest buyer from Jack Daniels. And I just remember at the time
Wow.
it just sat with me because it was such a large number. However, when you have a company like this that is the major employer in a rural county and surrounding counties that is now laying off employees because countries are boycotting American goods and tariff prices are getting astronomical and whatnot, and grocery prices and whatnot, people just don't have the money to spend on their favorite, Jack Daniels, black label. That is not good. That rolls downhill, and we're already seeing that. So District 4 needs representation that understands what the average person is going through, but is also going to put in place the infrastructure to help support them, because we're not Nashville, we're not Chattanooga. you know when we talk about southern states being welfare states, my district has the potential to be able to be self-sufficient and create more infrastructure and jobs. But without an engaged congressional representative, we don't get that. We just get whatever's happening here, and it's not good, it's not fun, and it leads to really bad outcomes for average Tennesseans.
Yeah. And I wish I could take this video and just walk around the entire Tennessee
Yeah, so like
to
here,
to like explain, like, you guys, 10%, that is very little. That's a lot of people that just don't care. Care might be the wrong way to say it, but that they're not participating in it. Like the politics is happening to you,
mm-hmm.
and you have the opportunity to leverage it to benefit you and your family's future.
Yeah, I mean, it's the equivalent. I put it in this perspective. It's something that I started saying it just at the end of 2025. Politics is deciding whether you want to be a player on the field or the turf that politicians walk on. I prefer to be the player on the field. Even
Yes,
if you're
ma'am.
just a watcher, if you're not
Yeah.
quite comfortable, you're like, I don't know, I'm gonna sit on those bleachers, those uncomfortable bleachers. That's fine. But deciding to be the turf, deciding to not participate is not the move. Cheering is all great and good, but if you want to see actual change, deciding to be on the field, and I want you to be there, because the more engaged you are as a voter, the more you understand the process, the more you understand our system, the better the outcomes are. And I want to
And
encourage you to be there.
and that's one of the things that the more I talk to candidates like you, that's, you guys want to be reached out to and connected with. You want to be held accountable. You want to, if something is happening, um, you want to be questioned and you want to explain the answer. And we've like we've
I want you to
never had
challenge
that in
me.
this country.
I want you to challenge me. I've been challenged. I've been on lives before where, and like just on podcast interviews where I get challenged by like a progressive or somebody might fall outside that lane. And I'm like, it feels uncomfortable in the minute. But like, it's so important because I am that representation for so many people. They're not going to come in contact with a congressional person, even an aide. There's power in that. But also with that power comes responsibility. And I think what you're finding, and like this is something we've talked about a little bit offline, is we're engaged in that way and we understand the power and we are not letting it go to our heads, and we're also not letting it be a reason to like stifle us. We're finding that uncomfortable ground, and like I almost had this moment where I was like, oh, I'm a millennial, so I have like that trauma of like just wanting someone to tell me I'm doing a bad job so that I can do better. And like every millennial is over here like, oh God, I hate this so much. Why is she saying the things that we don't want out loud? But that's part of it, is I want that engagement. I want you to feel empowered. I want you to feel empowered to step up to office. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who are like, I decided to run for office because I watched you. And I was like, why? Why? But it's empowering. Like it's understanding that power, understanding what is capable, like what is possible in a rural district like Tennessee, for where a working class mom who has tattoos and has two Chinese humans and all the things becomes friends with some of these big creators and is able to make a footing for themselves in a real way, while also making strategic change in my district, and basically taking the system and saying, I'm gonna flip it. I'm gonna flip the damn table because you deserve better. And it's personally, it's
100%.
because I want it, but it's also because it's what's best for everyone. I didn't watch Star Wars. I didn't watch Harry Potter. I didn't watch Hunger Games to just sit on the sideline and watch these things happen to me. And if that makes you just go to the polls, that's a small win. If I can get you to be a player on the field and feel comfortable in your vote and feel proud of your vote and feel engaged in your vote and feel empowered to make me work for you, that's the goal. Because moving the needle and making politicians look better, that's the work that we have to do regardless. Making voters feel confident in the system, that's the goal.
And a rich dude's not going to look out for you the way Victoria would. Let's just
No,
go ahead and rip that band
no,
aid off.
I'm a penny pincher at the end of the day. I remember someone saying that. They were like, they asked me a question, and I was like, no, I'm a penny pincher at the end of the day. I'm always looking to save a dollar. Like, put me in a congressional budget meeting, and I'll be like, no, 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 they don't need that. We don't need that. Nope. And I'll be like, no, 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 that's needed. And here's why. Yes, it looks like a big upfront cost. I know that, but we're paying for quality.
Yep. It's going to last
Well,
longer.
it's
It's
going
going
to
to be
last
cheaper
long.
in
It's
the
going to
long
look
run.
better. Like,
Yep.
here's how that money is going to play out. And people can relate to that. They can relate to understanding, what I'm trying to say. And it's like, if moderates worked, if moderation and cookie cutter politicians worked, my district would have flipped back in 2018 or 2020. But it didn't work. I don't look like a normal candidate, but we don't need normal. We need three-dimensional, attainable, real people who can quote, you know, Jurassic Park, but also understand that the tariff policy, like,
Right.
I think that's what made Obama so relatable, is like he releases his playlist and it's all things that we're listening to. And
Yeah.
I'm the same thing. It's like I'm just a modernized version of it and a little bit more fiery.
I know we're running, getting close to having to land this plane just because you're a wonderful mom and you have
Try.
responsibilities.
Unfortunately, I'm like every
So
adult.
let's wrap up by saying reach out to the people in your district. Let them know why they need to take a look at you and possibly vote for you. And then let them know where they can find you online.
Yeah, so guys, you can find me at Victoria, the number 4, Tennessee.org or .com. I have all my policy there, what I'm running on in 2026. Like, obviously, I ran in 2024, but in 2026, I am running on safety, affordability, freedom, and equity. So, safety is anything from a safety net to protect you when you have a hard day to making sure that your grocery prices are taken care of, and that corporations are paying their fair share so that your taxes go further. Affordability, everybody has to pay bills. Why not make it so that it's fair for everyone? And, so that you have a little bit of extra money at the end of the month. Freedom. What good is the American dream if you can't afford it? If you can't marry who you love, or get the best health care for your person. Like, these are not radical ideas. Having the right to have a gun, but also understanding that we are a part of a community and that our freedom should represent that, being responsible gun owners so that everyone's freedom is protected. And then equality, or not equality, equity. You want to make sure that every single person has a fair start in life. And that doesn't mean that you don't get more or somebody gets more. It just means that you pay your fair share, corporations pay their fair share, billionaires pay their fair share, and that those systematic oppression, those things that hold us back, the not having access to healthcare because you have to rely on a job, those things don't stop you from your full potential. So in 2026, we're going to make it safe. Safety, affordability, freedom, and equity. And you can find me, Victoria, the number 4 at .org or .com. And yeah, find me on all the social medias. I'm very spicy in the comment sections because I believe you deserve better representation. And also I'm fun, size, and feral, and that merch is on my website.
If you guys haven't, please do yourself a favor. Please do yourself a favor. Check out Victoria on social media. The fact that you are so intelligent but approachable and hilarious, you're fantastic. You're fantastic.
I know, and I mean, you can attest to it. You've seen what I'm like offline. I'm not any different offline than I am online. I maybe just say
These are facts,
fuck a little
folks.
less. I just don't cuss as much. But that's
I don't
just
cuss
me.
when my kids are around.
Oh no. I do cuss when my kids are around. And here, so we'll land this plane here. So my children, I am of a household like, cussing happens, whatever. We just don't see it at school, blah blah blah. So my son, my oldest, my 5-year-old, and 5-year-olds will humble you in a real way. He likes to say this fun little phrase of like, "What the heck of the world?" And so like one day I just like respectfully was just like, "Oh, what the heck of the world?" He says, "No, mama, you say what the fuck. I say what the heck of the world." And I was just like, this, I'm sorry, what? And he gets this big old smile on his face. And I was just like, he's like, "Don't worry, mama, I don't say that at school." And I was like, "Good. You're going to get a lot of people in trouble, including me." And, but I mean, he does it. Maybe he uses it in the correct way. And my youngest does it too. He doesn't do it as much because he doesn't care. 3-year-olds don't care. Teenagers are real. He's rolling into the fuck you force in a real way. And every parent of a young child understands that. But I mean, this is my life. I'm just a mom. I have fur babies. I foster. I have 2 tiny humans they're gonna give me a run for my money. That is for sure. They're so smart, and I'm just like, you know what? I picked my battles today, and the battle was on the internet. It's not with a 5-year-old. So I lost.
That's right.
They're good negotiators too. But yeah, so you guys can find me if you want to see more about me, see a little bit more about my personality, see what I'm like online.
Do yourself a favor and track her down.
I've been having fun on Threads recently. That's been my most recent. But yes, please follow me on all the social medias, and especially if you're in District 4. Vote for me in the August primary, and then vote for me in November because you deserve better representation. And we're flipping this district, whether you vote for me or not. So hop on the train. It's going to be a lot more fun.
There you go, Tennessee. There's your girl, Victoria Broderick. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come hang out. Explain to me what's happening in Tennessee.
So much.
Yeah.
So much. Right. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you guys so much for listening.
You're very welcome. And with that, everybody, we're out.
Coconut Justice.